Uncover the wisdom of the feminine through soulful conversations on spirituality, healing, relationships, self-leadership, sovereignty, and so much more. I'm your host, Tamar, feminine embodiment facilitator, feminine arts mentor, and soul tantrika. In this podcast, my goal is to take you deeper into the world of the feminine, stepping more into your feminine pleasure, power, authentic truth, and your sovereignty. Welcome to the Feminine Codes podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Feminine Codes. Today I am with Lange, and we're going to be speaking about calling in your soulmate via dream work and shadow work. And I'm so excited to invite her on today. Violet helps smart spiritual women to attract and create lasting love. She is a professionally trained coach, a yoga teacher, Reiki master, and she also graduated from Harvard and left the corporate world to follow her passion. Which is empowering women in love. So it's perfect for the feminine codes. Most of Violet's clients are in a fulfilling, committed partnership within months of starting to work with her. And she has helped hundreds of women define their lifelong partner. So she's considered a cosmic matchmaker. And I'm really interested in learning more about what a cosmic matchmaker is. It sounds fascinating. Violet also uses embodiment techniques, spiritual practices, deep insight and intuition in her practice, as well as practical guidance that helps her clients really transform these old patterns, trauma, limiting mindsets. She believes love is the most powerful force on the planet. And through love, we can really begin to build healthy romance, healthy families, and a healthy world. Violet, welcome to the Feminine Codes. So excited to have this conversation with you. And yes, introduce yourself if there's anything that I've left out. And I would love to also understand what a cosmic matchmaker is whenever you are ready.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I saw your podcast and I was like, I have to talk with her. I love what you're up to. It's much, much needed and a lot of fun. So Cosmic Matchmaker is kind of understanding that there are forces that shape our lives beyond just our ego, right? Like, I want a guy who's this tall and makes this much money and like my king, you know? And sometimes like that's what we get, and it's amazing. I don't mean to minimize the power of our minds. That's a like beautiful tool, but there's so much more that's here for us in our bodies and our experiences, and then also cosmically. And what I find is that a lot of people, and I don't blame them for this because it's part of being human, we date like from the root and second chakra. We're like, okay, I want someone who makes me feel safe and I want to feel attracted to them. And then we just hope like, and then we won't have power struggles, and then we'll connect on a heart level and we'll be able to speak our truth, and we hope that like it'll rise up. And what I work with my clients on is like, let's connect on a broader level first. Like, do you feel like this person aligns you with the divine? Do you have a similar vision of your life? Can you communicate yourself fully and not feel like shamed or have to be small? And then we work ourselves down through each chakra to like, do I want to actually build a life and a family with this person versus kind of starting there? And I say cosmic matchmaker because I'm not like going through my LinkedIn being like, oh, I think this guy, you know, with this person, or like doing the 3D level hookup. But when we integrate our head, our heart, and our body, and when we stay devoted to not just our spiritual path, but our embodiment path, then like the cosmos, the great goddess above, whoever you want to call it, like they do the work for us in many ways. And we don't have to be the one like efforting so much. So that's what cosmic matchmaker means.
That makes sense. I mean, we do kind of look at it from this level of who do we feel safe with, right? Yeah. And I guess that also has to do with working with the shadows, with shadow
Hmm.
work and clearing some of those base beliefs. And How do you use, I just am jumping into it. So let me go back. Hold on. So what brought you into this work?
A lot of my own personal trauma. I memean, I was living on the outside a life that seemed successful, like I had a corporate job, I was married, my first marriage was in my 20s, I was going to business school, like everything on the outside seemed like, oh, everything is fine. But people didn't realize, I had disordered eating, I was drinking a bottle of wine at a time. My husband at that time and I hadn't had sex in years. Like everything on the inside was hollow, even though everything on the outside looked, quasi successful. Um, and I had this pivot in my late 20s, like a lot of us do, Saturn return and all these things, where I realized I just can't keep living like this. Like I'm destroying my body. My marriage has been over for a long time. And I am not here for any reason. Like, why am I here? And there was a time where I was having some suicidal thoughts, and I was like, I have to get help. And the woman that I met with as a counselor was like, well, what do you really want? And I was like, I want to leave my husband. I want to work for a nonprofit. Like I had this list of things really top of mind. And she's like, well, why aren't you doing those things? And I was like, well, I can't, like I had all this conditioning around being a good Christian and like doing the right thing. And what if I don't make enough money? Like just basically all this societal stuff. And then over the course of the next 7, 8 years, maybe even a little bit longer, till I met my husband, I was just launched into this path of deep healing because I did get a divorce and I did switch jobs and I did move across the country. And then once you start your spiritual path, like all these seeds kind of get planted and you keep going and new things arise. And I started working on my childhood trauma, and I was abused sexually by my father and grew up in a household with a lot of like narcissism and other types of abuse. And I never really looked at it because I was like, well, it doesn't matter because I'm where I am and it, whatever, like, but we can't fake it. And so through that process of working on my own shadow and wounding and all of that, I was doing executive coaching for a while. And then all of my clients, like clockwork within months, would say, okay, cool, like the business stuff is good, but can you help me with my personal life? Like, tell me what to do about this woman that I'm dating, or I've been single for a long time. Can you help me? And I'm like, I'm technically not trained in this, but been working on it a long time for myself. So sure. And then it gained momentum. And then I took a training specifically on love and dating and sexuality. And then that was history, the rest was history. So yeah,
Now, did you meet your husband in that process?
I did. I met him before I officially became like a love coach on the outside. Like I was love coaching some of my private executive clients, but I hadn't told the world that this is what I was up to. And then I think partly because of his belief in me, and partly just because I had integrated some of the work a little bit more, then that gave me more of the courage.
That's beautiful. And I'm curious, like, I know that we are going to speak about teamwork, and obviously the shadow work played a big part because you're doing all this
Hmm.
healing on self healing. You're traveling and diving deep.
Hmm.
Did you get into dream work? Like, did that help you manifest and, like, I guess, create this possibility to meet your husband?
So I've always been into my dreams. I hadn't officially taken a certain course, but I had been journaling about my dreams and active with my dreams, and that did really help me. And then recently, like in the last 5 years, I've taken a dream course with an amazing woman named Ariella Daly who does dream work and dreaming with the bees and animism and stuff. But yeah, I would say like a lot of the shadow work had to deal with me setting boundaries and reclaiming my dark feminine and really connecting to my pleasure and my body and my yoni and my cervix, and traveling into these places that even though my somatic therapist was amazing, like she wasn't in my vagina, like she couldn't really unlock my tissues the way that I needed to
Right.
rediscover who I really was and the type of love I wanted to create.
How does pleasure lead into, like, this this love and life energy that you're wanting to call in for the listeners? Can you explain how pleasure is such an important aspect of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had devalued pleasure pretty much my entire life. It was more about productivity. And I had this narrative that most of us inherit from the culture that pleasure will make you lazy and you don't really deserve to feel good. Like, why would you care about feeling good when you could be making someone else happy or producing something for someone? And what I have found with myself and with my clients is that when we go into our pleasure, our shadow will come up, right? Like, yes, it's important to go straight into our shadow too. I'm absolutely advocating that as well. But when we go into our pleasure, we don't get lazy. We get like real with ourselves. Like, okay, I feel good. And then we're like, oh my God, now I'm feeling anxious. Like I've been in my pleasure too long. Like someone's gonna need something from me. Or someone gets triggered by me. Like I always say, this work is polarizing, right? Like you'll walk through the world and some women will be like, yes, oh my God, you're giving me permission to be in my body and be radiant and be sexual. Another one will be like, oh my God, have their judgments about it. And that's okay because either way, it's a transmission, it's an awakening. So pleasure in some ways is a path into our shadow. Also because I feel like if we're committed to pleasure, then we're exploring maybe areas that are taboo or are unknown, like G-spot, cervix, anal. We're wired for pleasure in so many places. And then beyond just the body, like pleasure in our relationships looks like if you're dating someone and they show up 20 minutes late, instead of being like swallowing it and just being like, oh, it's okay, like whatever, there was traffic, saying, I feel really pissed off that you were 20 minutes late. My time is valuable and I want to have an amazing time tonight, but like I just can't go a second longer without telling you how I feel about this. That doesn't work for me. You can say it playfully, but knowing that you deserve to feel good gives you the courage then to stand up for yourself. And when you stand up for yourself, you're actually even more sexy, I think. And I've found, yeah.
I think that's something that's so hard for some of us to learn. Like that takes
Yeah.
a lot of healing of those childhood woundings to really step into that place where, and not that's not for everyone obviously, but that we can feel safe enough to express our emotions when we're unhappy. And like what is that going to create, especially for anyone who has the good girl people pleaser kind of personality. And a lot of women do when we grow up because we're taught that that is what's acceptable. And so
Mhm.
how do you find that with your clients, and how do you work through that with your clients, like whenever they come and show up with this, like they can't really access that. It's a little bit
Mhm.
scary.
Yes. Well, I like to give people something for their mind to kind of chew on while we're also doing deeper work, because I feel like if I'm straight like, okay, let's go into the mistress of rage, people will be like, like an archetypal practice. But if I can use a framework to start. So what I normally tell people is two things. First, feel it, reveal it in order to heal it. So like all these blocks you can't do anything about until you feel them. And then when you're vulnerable and you reveal them, that's where the combination of those two, the healing happens. And then also it's so simple, but just I feel, I want. And like every single problem in your life, in your love life and beyond can be solved with I feel, I want. Like I feel sad that I haven't heard from you in a few days. And I want to know that you're someone that I can depend on and that you're consistent in your words and actions. And if not, like maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Like being willing to just speak your truth like that. So that's really key. But if we haven't done some of the other work, those words don't feel authentic or it'll feel kind of like a script. So I think everyone and their, best friend wants like the 5 things to text him to get him to pay attention to you, how to get your ex back and all that. But dating isn't a numbers game, it's an energy game. So, and game, I use lightly, but after they kind of understand those communication things or concurrently, it's like, ooh, really going into the heart. And what are those betrayal wounds or abandonment wounds that keep us tied to these old patterns out of a desire to be loved? And then going into the body and really, like I said, mistress of rage or, queen of seduction or even the prostitute or the witch. Like, how do we work with these energies? Because I think a lot of times people think, or women especially, oh, if I dip my toe in that water, then people are just going to all of a sudden see me that way. And it's like, I'm not asking you to become this in every instance and every cell of your body. But I'm saying, could you bring 5% of the witch into your dating to create a lot more magnetism and a lot more power and a lot more connection to yourself? Because the last thing I'll share before I wrap this part up is I always just have my clients put their hands on their heart and say, I'm 100% committed to myself. I will never betray or abandon myself. And it's like, as we build out that self or reclaim that self that we are, then it becomes more and more possible to be like, yeah, why would I abandon this? This is amazing. And I have so many shades and textures and they're all welcome here. And yeah, anyway.
I love working with the archetypes, so I'm really love to hear that you bring that into your work.
Yeah.
I'm actually just closing it up. I've just led a year of archetypes each month, a different archetype
Woo.
for women to embody. And this month, which is the last, we have our last call next week. It's all about Kali, the Indian goddess. I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
slicing away the
Yes.
illusions and really stepping into that. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
powerful when we incorporate those pieces of self back in, those parts back in, and really reclaim our power or our sensuality or our pleasure. It's so powerful as women. And so I love that you're doing that. I think it's just archetypes. If you've not, anyone listening, if you've not worked with archetypes before, this is really, really powerful work to embody the way that Violet's talking about. So I'm so happy that you're bringing that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that you're offering that course. That sounds so juicy and fun.
Yeah, it was. It was. I'm not doing it now. It ran its course and I just closed it, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And Kali
Isn't
was
that
a great
great?
one to end with.
Yes, totally. Yeah, seasonally and just culturally, that's like such powerful medicine right now. I was just gonna say, isn't it nice as a female entrepreneur to be like, I'm creating this thing. Oh, it doesn't feel authentic anymore. I'm gonna create this other thing. Like, oh, let's try this. Like, my husband's always asking me, why are you continually like destroying your business? I'm like, well, because then I get to create something new. Like, if it doesn't feel alive in me, I'm just not gonna offer the same thing over and over again, you know? But to him, his mindset is like, what?
We're so completely opposite, right?
Yeah.
It's the birth, death, rebirth
Hmm.
process that we go through as women. When we go through it on a monthly basis while we have our cycles. So, and then you have the year cycle, and you have it's just, and then I'm a Scorpio, so it's all about death and rebirth. And that's just the way that I
I
love
love it.
creating new things. But if it
Hmm.
doesn't light you up, that's the thing. As women,
Yes.
and my archetype especially, I have to be lit up. And once that's done, it's on to the next.
Hmm.
I talking about pleasure. Like let's just like go back to pleasure because there's a lot of different aspects of pleasure. There's finding pleasure in life and like what brings us pleasure on a daily basis, and then there's sexual pleasure, like in intimacy.
Hmm.
And so they're very they're obviously different aspects of pleasure, but I think whenever we've gone through trauma, this has been my experience, we lose that sense of connection to what brings us pleasure. And I know for me, it was like what even brought me pleasure in life after I experienced and went through my own traumatic PTSD. What brought me joy? What brought me pleasure? What do I even want to do today? What are my dreams? Talking about dream work and having to reintegrate all of that, heal all of that in aspect. Um, yeah, what is your take on that? Because pleasure is so important for really calling in that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we go through this freeze, and sometimes the freeze happens after the trauma, right? I think a lot of times people think, oh, trauma, and they're like immediately shut down. But sometimes you shut down a part of yourself and you don't like unthaw that part until later, even if you are coping okay on the outside. And to your point about pleasure, like it's very hard sometimes to think about pleasure when we are in more of that survival or PTSD mode. But I love what you said about pleasure because it's not just sexual and it's not just about even orgasm. It's about our five senses. It's about following our feminine integrity, which we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier, versus like, I made this commitment and I'm going to follow through. Like, well, what's authentic for me in this moment? And what am I wanting right now? And um, I think it does have a lot to do with giving ourselves permission to tap into ourselves, give ourselves the time and space to do that. And a lot of my clients are like, oh my God, like, why do I need so much time for self-care? I'm like, well, if you don't have the space to come home to yourself and to peel back these layers, then you won't know what that like authentic expression of pleasure or joy or like the next little step on your path. You can't just schedule that in, like, okay, 3 p.m. I'm gonna get a download about my pleasure. It has to be part of this ecosystem. And if I'm just going to talk in heteronormative terms, but like if a man can't feel you, he can't find you. And he can't find you if he can't feel you because you have to feel yourself, right? And you are this like transmission, and we all have our unique flavor of that. So it's not really like anything that anyone can even have the same as each other. So you need the self-care to find your pleasure, and you need the pleasure to find like your authenticity. And that is what that expression is that draws someone to you. And just to be clear, I don't think we have like one soulmate, because that's just another patriarchal myth that men don't really get told. Women are like, wait for the one, you have one soulmate. Men are like, yeah, have fun, play the field, like see what's good out there. And anyway, so like I definitely think my husband Jason is a soulmate, and he is who I will hopefully be with for the entirety of my life. But I think there's probably 35 soulmates like somewhere in this universe right now, right? Like, it's about making the most empowered choice for yourself, not like hung up on an ex or pining for like the one that got away or crushing on someone who's not available. Although, I mean, that can be pleasurable too. Yeah, pleasure is just like this flow that then aligns you to the right opportunities, I guess, or the right things to come in. And I think dream work is part of that, because dream work is a surrender. You're like, this is an intention, and I have no idea what's going to come through. But I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to try not to scare myself, because what I get in my dream doesn't have to be interpreted literally. Like I can talk a little bit more about that, but
Yes, please do.
yeah, sometimes it is literal. It is literal sometimes, and sometimes it's not. So first I'll give an example of my version of like nightmares or anxiety dreams are not about like public speaking or anything like that. It's always a betrayal wound, because I have experienced betrayal in my life in many ways. And so, it's a dream about like my husband saying, I don't want to be with you anymore. And when I ask him why, he's like, I can't tell you, it's like this amorphous sort of thing. And for a long time, I would give that a lot of weight. I'd like wake up sweating and just be like, oh my God, I had this bad dream. And, he would hold me and be like, it's okay, love. Like, I've got you. It's just you, like, don't worry. There's no one else. And I'm like, well, if there is, I'm a witch and I'm going to figure it out, because I have like badass intuition. So don't mess with me. But anyway, like I had a dream like this just last night. So this is really timely. I had a dream, and it was another kind of those stress dreams. And I, told him at like 5 a.m. and he held me. And then I was out in the garden in the backyard with my son, who's 10 months old. And what just kept coming up for me in my mind was like, it's not about the dream, it's about the trust. And I had this moment where I felt like my heart was just like ripping open. And I was like, you know what? It's time to lay my own issues with trust on the altar of our love. Like it is time for me to not follow the thread of those dreams and not be like, oh my God, this means this thing about him, and I should therefore like stalk his social media. Like, no. Like, if something happens to our union, it will hurt. It will be so fucking painful, but I can handle it. And I am not going to like plague us with these perpetual fears. And the more I feed into it, like, oh, what does this mean? Then, of course, the more it's in my psyche and the more it comes up. And so I have some like rage and grief embodiment work I should and can be doing like later today to support this epiphany. But I told him that just like a few hours ago. I was like, yeah, I'm ready to just lay these trust issues on the altar of love, and trust that like every betrayal I've experienced has been part of me being forged as the woman I am. And like I will not be afraid to be like full of rage and spite if something happens, but I don't want to hold on to this anymore. And so that's an example of the sequence of dreams that were about me healing my relationship to trust, not about like him cheating on me. Um, and then on the total other end of the spectrum, I was dating someone very casually, but still like, intimately when I met my husband. But before we met, I'm telling this all backwards, but basically I had a dream when I was trying to figure out if I should be with his name was Joe or not. I'm like, okay, universe, goddess, like, should I be with Joe? Should I not? Like, my heart is not feeling 100%. I'm really sensitive and he's sarcastic, but like on paper, he looks good in all these ways. And we do have really good chemistry. And I just was really uncertain. So I was kind of opening all the doors that I could in my practices to see what my truth was and what the truth was. And I woke up from the dream, or sorry, I had the dream, and in my dream this guy is walking up to me and he puts his hand on my heart in the dream, and he goes, Joe's a 10 and you're a 100, what are you doing with this guy? And I woke up laughing because it was so ridiculous. It was so like whatever, vain or something. But I woke up and like my heart felt warm and I just like smiled to the universe. I was like, okay, yeah, like Joe's not the one. Um, but I didn't break up with him the next day or something. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna let this marinate. I don't know if this is literal or symbolic. And so like let's see how it all plays out. And then I got invited to this Friendsgiving and I invited Joe and he was like, no, I can't make it because of some reason. So I went by myself and I met this other guy and he was like, oh, I'm leading a talk about dream work and ayahuasca. And I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And anyway, I go and I'm at this event on lucid dreaming and medicine work. And this guy approaches me and I tell the woman that I'm standing next to, I go, holy shit, I had a dream about that guy like 3 weeks ago. And she's like, oh, okay, interesting. Like she didn't think it was too weird because it was a dreaming event. Anyway, it was my husband. It was the man that I met in the dream walked up to me and this other woman. And it was like all these spiritual sparks were flying. Um, but we weren't like sure what was going on exactly. And then he asked for my card at the end of it. And I was like, oh, he's probably in a relationship. Like, why would he ask for my card versus like my number? But I just let it go and like, whatever. And then he messaged me and was like, I'd love to continue the conversation for coffee. And we did. When we were on the coffee date, I was like, crazy story, but I actually had a dream about you 3 weeks ago. And he said, well, I was claiming you before I met you. I love it. So he just embraced it. He embraced my like dream, my intuition, the fact that he was doing that. And then just the last little thread in this story is that we pieced together the night that I had the dream, he was on an ayahuasca ceremony, and his whole journey was about, I want to be met by the feminine. Like, I'm sick of chasing her. I'm sick of like trying to like see how many dates I can get because he had been dating, but like having a hard time with it. He's like, no, fuck that. Like, meet me. Like divine feminine, meet me. And then yeah, that was the night that he basically pierced the veil into my dream.
Wow, I love stories like that so much.
Yeah,
Those things do happen.
they do.
They do.
They
It's so,
totally do.
and I love it when those things happen to people because it shows that the veil is so thin. We don't
Mhm.
have to live like this. We can ask for guidance and we can receive it. It's
Yes,
whether or not we trust it
absolutely.
and know how to follow it.
Yes, yes, totally. And as women, I mean, all creatures, but as women especially, like we are like tuning forks, As long as we stay devoted to ourselves and our body and like continue to integrate our head and our heart and our body and all that stuff, like things, it's like a flower, like things want to open up for us.
Mhm. Yeah, they do. Yeah, the womb especially. The womb is like this,
Mm,
yeah, it's a
yes,
magical portal that gives us, once we learn
absolutely.
how to awaken that, it's really powerful. I
Hmm.
resonate so much with so much that you've said. I've also experienced dreams of betrayal. That is the most common dream that I've had probably since
Hmm.
I was a little girl.
Me
And
too.
yeah, so I resonate with that a lot. And then just breaking through and understanding that you're right. It's about trust. I used to do a lot of
Hmm.
dream work to dive in and analyze my dreams and, like the subconscious and I find the dream world fascinating because it tells us so much when we
Hmm.
actually, I have all my clients and students journal their dreams for that reason,
Yeah.
because there's so much within a dream. And I find that the more that we do that, the more we remember, and the more that we
Hmm.
make this connection, like this, we weave this thread, that they begin to speak to us more and more. And it sounds like you've
Hmm.
also had that experience.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like why not use all of these tools at our disposal? I tell my clients, you're awake for how many hours and sleeping for how many hours. You can be not using, but you can be tapping in, during that time. And yeah, it feels like our dream work is just this powerful ally that's here to support us, especially when you get reflections from other women. Like I have this little dreaming pod that I'm a part of, and we have our own like way with the dream, but then someone else has a dream of our dream or like feels it in a different way, and then so much can get um yeah, like transmuted in those realms.
It can. It's usually that the time of sleep right before waking up. When your brain, like my brain, would go into theta. That's when most of
Hmm.
my psychic visions would happen, would be
Yeah.
right in that period. Journals and journals and journals of dream work of my dreams. And sometimes
Hmm.
actually, so I'll go back and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that actually happened. Like COVID.
Yeah.
I actually had a dream
Wow.
2 years before it happened that it was going to
Oh my
happen, but
God.
I just thought it was some like random dream. It obviously it's not like I was like, oh, a future event. I'm gonna this is gonna
Hmm.
happen. But then I found it a couple years ago, and I was like, whoa, how crazy!
It's
That's why the
amazing.
books journal
Wow.
your dreams.
Yes, totally. I also think dreams can be, I mean, it's very similar to the service because it's like a gateway of life. It's like our dreams can be this portal to past lives and to like connecting to all these universal energies and um yeah, it's profound. And then I'm also really into family constellations therapy, which is this way similar of like kind of accessing a broader lens to see how different energies are showing up, not just in our lineage, but like in our cosmic lineage and our connection to the earth and our connection to our desires. It's to me just fascinating to play in these areas because there's so much mystery, but also so much connection and so much healing.
There is. Do you find that working, or how do you find rather, working with these tools like family constellations and all of that really helps with calling in that partner, that soulmate?
Yeah, well, I think, like the outer world says, go on 100 dates, be on every app. Like, get your outer world in a certain way. And it's not that we want to neglect that, right? Because we do live in a body in a 3D world. But I found the more that I really held true to my vision of what was important to me in my heart, the more that I believed that, and then the more that I peeled back the layers of the onion of things that were keeping me from really like living that prayer from my beloved. And all these modalities are different ways of peeling back that onion, right? So I can say to one person, like, focus on your dreams and you'll meet your partner, but that would be not really fully authentic because maybe for them it is through dream work, and for someone else it's through yoni eggs, and for someone else it's through archetypes. It's like we're all these unique locks and we have different keys that will unlock us. And I think as women, like we get that knowing of like, oh yeah, this feels good in my body even if I don't know where it's leading. And that's more important than like, I'm gonna go to a, hotel lobby because there's supposed to be successful men there and I want to meet one. It's like, well, follow what feels right in your body and follow like these, breadcrumbs or whatever from the universe. I think Mama Gina talks about driftwood, or there's all these different ways to talk about it. But yeah, so what I'm trying to say is these tools are ways to get us in deeper touch with our essence and our vision. And a lot of women that I meet are feeling fatigued from dating. They're like, oh, well, I'm trying to meet someone like this, but I keep meeting this. And so therefore, like, I should just settle, or I should just say, like, screw this. It's not working in my life. Like, I'm just meant to be single and like a boss babe or whatever. It's vulnerable to like hold on to a vision or continue to feed a vision of what you want. And the more that we feel that in our bodies and the more that we live that through our five senses, it's not like law of attraction. I don't really like fully, I'm not on the law of attraction bus. It's like there's so much more than just the law of attraction. But when we don't minimize our vision, when we don't downplay our vision, when we have the courage to keep living it, but also keep on our healing path and trying these different modalities, and also, a lot of women I work with, they've done like 80% of the work. It's not like they've just been coasting through life and have never looked at their interiors, but it's helpful to be able to integrate. And I think that's also where pleasure helps, is because then we have the space and time to integrate the healing that we've done. And it's helpful to have, whether it's a coach or like you're a program that you're in, or whether it's a sister circle or a women's circle, like people who can reflect back to you and help you to pull the pieces together. Again, that could be through dream work. It could be through shadow work, which is really helpful, like being around other women who know how to express anger and know how to connect with their shame and know how to connect to their desire and their grief and like all of that. Because it's not just about you doing your work individually, although that's important, and trying these modalities. It's about like being held in that, by the greater like womb, the greater feminine, as through other women and as through these spaces where you can really drop in. So a lot of the work that I do is in groups, although I do one-on-ones too. Um, And I know I'm belaboring the point. It's like you just can't replace the power of reflection, because I think as feminine, we know who we are through others, right? Like through relationship, through others reflecting us back to them, through seeing ourselves in others, and like this dance that we do together.
Yeah, I love that you bring up women's groups and women coming together. One of the most powerful experiences I ever had was in my shamanic studies. And it would be sometimes 5 days sitting in circle with women consecutively, where we would sleep, and we would be there all day studying. But the reflection that you get from each other and understanding shadow through that, understanding your
Hmm.
triggers through that, and it's really just a reflection and a mirror of you. But the growth that
Hmm.
comes with that, like, is so powerful. There's nothing quite like sitting in circle with women. And I find that, at
Hmm.
least here in the US, it's really hard to get women to commit to longer containers like that to keep
Hmm.
sitting in circle. Whereas in Europe, it seemed to be a little easier. But yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of women yet, I may be wrong, that understand the power of it and how much
Hmm.
that can shift in their life.
Yeah. Yeah, I have always led my retreats residential, like people live together, on property,
Hmm.
and oftentimes just in an Airbnb, and like we cook together, we're doing all these things. And again, not to always focus on the contrast, but my husband's always like, why do you like cook with everyone? I'm like, because that's where the magic happens, right? Like we're cooking together, we're snacking together, we're sharing bathrooms, we're like talking about things, in the hallway or off and on. And yeah, the power of the container, like you were talking about the power of the womb, like that is as much of the transformational vehicle as like the specific modality, or even then like the agenda that I have as a teacher or a leader. It's like the power is in the group and the container, and in how deep each person can go and wants to go, those intentions that we bring in. And sometimes I'll just tell one other quick story. Like I led a retreat called Wild Sensuality. It was about like connecting to the elements and the earth and all that. And I had an opening circle with like drum calling in the elements in the directions. And one of the women there had a really powerful experience connecting to the earth. And we all like celebrated that. And I didn't really think anything else of it. And then throughout the weekend, like there were other little snippets that I was kind of tracking, but I didn't have an expectation around it. She also had like a really powerful experience with her womb and the womb like reclamation shamanic journey. And then fast forward, one of her prayers going into it was to have a baby and to be a mom. And she wasn't even in a relationship at the time. And then a month after the retreat, she reconnected with an ex who they had broken up because he wasn't willing to look at his trauma in the way that she needed him to feel like really good about moving forward. He's like, I'm ready, I'm doing it. And she was like, okay, I'm scared to death that you're just saying that to get me back, but like, let's go. Um, and then like 4 months later, they got pregnant and now she has a baby. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not like I, as Violet, came in being like, yeah, like, let's get everyone their intentions, and these are the 10 steps that we're going to do. It's just like, okay, I know we need to connect to the earth. I know we need to connect to each other. I know we need to connect to our bodies. And beyond that, like, the mystery is holding us all. Anyway.
But that's the power that I was just trying to explain this to someone a couple days ago. But the power of retreats themselves, whether facilitator or attendee,
Yeah.
but we throw ourselves into this pot, like this held space where it's for a consistent amount of time where you're in it, and the transformation that can happen is extremely powerful,
Hmm.
life changing. Yeah, I think those are some of my favorite things to do. Is really is holding the retreats and the workshops, because it's an intensive,
Hmm.
but it's transformational. Like you said, like the woman she got pregnant and didn't even.
I know.
I mean, it's incredible.
I know.
Yeah, beautiful. And as facilitators, we receive so much from being within
Hmm.
those spaces as well. Yeah. For women who are really wanting to heal and really want to meet their soulmate. And I agree with you. I don't think that there's just one soulmate. I think we have many. I grew up thinking that there was one
Hmm.
person, Prince Charming, whatever, and I looked for him for a very long time, but come to find out there are multiple. What are three pitfalls that women should avoid when they're out there looking for someone and trying to meet, I guess, their soulmate? like this woman that
Mm,
you had in this retreat who was wanting to meet somebody. Granted, it was someone from the past,
mhm,
but what do you suggest to women as far as when they're looking for dating to avoid?
mhm. That's a great question. I think my answer continues to evolve, right, as I
Mhm.
continue to grow and evolve. But I kind of alluded to earlier, the first one is watering down the vision, like being like, oh, I thought, someone who was on their spiritual path doing their work was important to me, but maybe it's okay that he's not, maybe it's okay that he's just kind of living his 3D life and I've done my healing, so therefore that should be enough for the both of us. It's like, no, you need to stay committed to your vision, whatever your vision is. That was an example for me. Like I wanted someone doing deep personal work. But stay committed to your vision and make sure that the vision is the deepest expression of you and not just a societal construct. And one way that you can do that is thinking through like, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel with my partner when we first meet? How do I want to feel when we're in relationship? How do I want to feel during our intimacy? How do I want to feel when we're in conflict? And it doesn't just have to be like, oh, I want to feel, you know, lit up. Like maybe that's part of it, but maybe it's I want to feel authenticity. I want to feel truth. I want to feel courage. I want to feel depth. I want to feel like healthy tension and eroticism, like all of those things. So that's kind of about the vision. I think the pitfall is watering it down or not like going deeper of what we actually want authentically. Um, and then in a weird way, like the opposite of that is the second pitfall, which is thinking that the perfect partner is already just walking around, but you actually build the perfect partnership together, right? Like both of you are imperfect. And so being willing to let it be messy, being willing in the early stages to hold differences. Like for instance, I'm monogamous. I've always been monogamous. And I'm fine if people are not monogamous, but that's just the relationship structure that feels good for me. And when my husband and I went on our second date, I was like, how do you feel about polyamory? Because I was just curious, like, where he's coming from with it. And he's like, yeah, I could totally be into that sometime. I think I might want to do that at some point. And, I got triggered. I was like, oh, my stuff is coming up because I feel like that's just the, you know, exit hatch for like whenever you feel like that you're done with me. And I'm like, what if we have kids and I get, like in a different phase in my body and you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, that poly that poly thing I mentioned on our second date. And so he was like, yeah, I hear that. He's like, this is a question for me. I don't know if I want that in the future or not. At we had this like amazing night together, but it was full of these conversations. Basically the next day I was just like, I don't think our timing is right because I'm really clear on what I want. And I think you're still kind of figuring out what you want. And so maybe our paths will cross in the future. So I sent him that text and I was bawling and he was like, I totally honor that. I can't say that I'm ready to be in a relationship right now. And I can't say that I won't want a different structure in the future. So I wish you all the best too. And we just like let it be after this really intense, like long, long date. The next day I'm in this like heart opening pose, this like yin yoga pose, heart opening. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I trying to control this thing that I don't know even where it's going yet? Because I'm afraid and because of like I need to be able to predict it because I'm on a timeline to have a kid or whatever it is. So I texted him and I was like, I think I'm open to the possibility of a moment by moment relationship as long as I can just show up as myself and be loved as that. And I will do my best, to like show up to love you as you show up for yourself. And anyways, there was like a knot we were unraveling. I think it was 18 months. We were already engaged when he was finally like, I think that was like a fantasy of mine because my parents got divorced because their sexual connection went out. They had 4 kids. They just got further and further apart. And I saw how much that hurt our family. He's like, I would only want to do poly if you wanted to do it in order to save our marriage to rekindle an eroticism that we've lost and incorporate other energies. He's like, but it would have to be mutual. And based on like how committed you are to your growth and how committed I am to my growth, like I don't really see that happening. I don't need that to be part of our structure in order to feel like fully devoted to you. It took us 18 months to get there and a lot of vulnerability on both of our part, but especially mine because I was like, I'm engaged to you and I don't even know if like 2 weeks from now, 2 years from now, 2 decades from now, you're going to be like, oh, by the way, different relationship structure. So my point with all of that is just that sometimes holding differences provides the exact healing opportunity you need to like be vulnerable and compassionate. And it's a fine line, right? Like, I'm not saying you should hold a difference if it's destructive or toxic to you or re-triggering to you in a way, to re-traumatizing. Anyway, and I think the third like major pitfall is, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but like not staying connected to our body and our truth, or feeling like, oh, I'm like done now. I'm trying to figure out how to share this in integrity. I have a longtime friend that we met when we were both like a few years into our personal path, and she met her partner earlier than me and had her family earlier, and her life has like taken her in certain ways. And at some point, she just kind of stopped doing the personal work. Like, she was just like, I'm just not interested in that anymore. And I totally respect that. I think there's seasons. We're not meant to like be pushing ourselves to the edge every moment. But I have a Scorpio moon, so I'm also very much like, let's transform. Like, my body is hungry for that and whatever. Um, but anyway, I think, not that that's a pitfall, but I think it's a missed opportunity, right? Like, it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be painful, but stay devoted to your growth, stay devoted to your transformation, and don't feel like just because if on the outside you get the things you're looking for, like you get the partnership or you get the job or whatever, that it just means like, oh, okay, I did my work to get the thing. It's like, I don't believe that it's transactional like that. Like, I do my work, I get my thing. It's, I commit to my essence. I'm devoted to my own growth and my own path, and like keeping following those currents and those threads, knowing that that could actually rip apart the thing that I worked so hard to get. But if I don't keep following what's true to me, then I am like kind of betraying myself, betraying my own reason for being here and my own fullness.
Mm-hmm. No, the three great points, all three of them. And I think this last one is really big whenever we ignore our own body and stop
Mhm.
following that. Like, my ex-husband, I continued on my path. It's like I continued my own growing and the love was there, but he did actually wasn't willing to look at it, his stuff. And so eventually we just grew apart. And that's something I had to decide, regardless of how much love there was, is just I have to be on my path and I have to continue growing. And that's unfortunately not here anymore. So yeah, sometimes those choices aren't the easiest, but yeah, you gotta
But good for you.
using yourself.
That's, yeah. I mean, good for you. Like, what I hear in that is this wild devotion to the pulse of your life and your
Mm,
essence and your authenticity. And without that, like, you're just going through the motions and you have no idea how the universe wants to flow through you in service of like this podcast, and all the people that you're helping through this would probably not happen if you had been like, oh, it's okay, I'll just kind of fit in to like the upper limit of this relationship.
yeah, yeah. Mm. Dog in the background. Um,
Yay.
yes, thank you. Yeah, it's not always easy, but the power, the empowerment, and the healing and the work that we do, hi, baby, is really allowing us to access the truth of who we are. And I think that's the gist of, it's like that's where we want to go as humanity. And if you're looking for a partner, if you're looking for a soulmate, like the magnetism like that radiates from you, the radiance that comes through you whenever you're doing the work that Violet is speaking about, that is what calls in your partner. That's what they're attracted to, the authentic you.
Mhm. I also just want to say that, like, we can't predict the future. And like I said, I hope I'm with my partner for the rest of my life. But one of the things I hope to impart to my clients and maybe to anyone listening is that when you connect to these deep levels of yourself through shadow work, like you're talking about, and archetypes or yoni eggs or family constellations, like that can't be taken away from you. And so if something does change in your outer circumstances, you have the fortitude and the magic to like create this next iteration. I always tell my clients to tell themselves, like, I am a woman of love and I am going to be in a loving partnership at some point, at some place. And I'm already in a loving partnership with myself and the divine. So I'm already like in that field. And to not be afraid of like speaking your truth and following these threads, because when you feel that level of kind of confidence and devotion within yourself and union with your soul and the universe, then I won't say it doesn't matter because it can hurt like hell when things shift, but you can rely on yourself and you can know that you have the safety to be able to move forward and to expand and receive.
So true. Violet, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your stories and your work with everyone. And one last question before we go. Is there a ritual or a practice that you have on a daily basis that you do that really brings you back to center, that brings you back into your body?
I have a few, so I won't go too far into these, but one of them is anointing with rose oil. It's like just so simple, but just putting rose oil on my heart or on my third eye or on my wrists. Like the smell of the rose, I work a lot with the rose. And so the smell of the rose just really to me unlocks a lot and brings a lot in. And then my drum, which is over there, but I won't go get it. My husband and I, on one of our anniversaries, went to a drum making workshop and he made a buffalo drum and I made a deer drum. And actually, I'm going to get it really quickly because I love it so much. Oh, it's over here. Because what I have to show you is that it looks like the moon. Like somehow the hide dried so that it looks like the moon. So I am not an expert drummer by any means, but just like drumming a little bit, it just calls me home to myself. And so I try to do that every day. And then I also try to draw an oracle card every day and write out my dream intention every day. So those are like four practices that I try to do. They don't take very much time either one, but yeah.
I love it. And I love your drum, by the way. I
Thank
made
you.
my
I love
drum
it
too
too.
with the deer. It's so powerful when you actually connect with the animal, this
Oh
that
my
is
God.
that you're making the drum from. And I love that you
Yes.
two did it together. That is so sweet.
Yeah, it was really special.
Beautiful. And how can my listeners find you?
My website is a hot mess. It hasn't been updated in a really long time. So the best way to find me is either just email me, violet@violetlang.com, or find me on social media. I'm old, so I use Facebook. It's just Violet Lang, on Facebook. And then my husband and I have a course called Evolutionary Couples, and it's for people in relationship to build their partnership. And then I have a program called the Love Field, and it's using embodiment practices, family constellations, and a bunch of other modalities to be in a more expressive field of love and call in your beloved. So I'll send you the links to those things.
Please
Yeah.
do. So exciting. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before?
No, thank you so much for being you and for hosting this podcast and for all the magic that you're up to. And yeah, I feel really grateful to connect. I feel like you're a soul sister, priestess on the path from a past life or something.
I feel it too.
Yeah.
So wonderful connecting with you, Violet. It's so happy that you're here having this conversation with me, and everyone will put the links to Violet's programs for especially both of them with you and your husband, so you can find her there. And I will see you next time.